Let's not sugarcoat this. India wasn't welcomed at the Tianjin SCO summit because of its rising power or strategic brilliance. No. India was invited because Donald Trump smacked it with 50% tariffs, and now Modi is wandering around like someone who just got kicked out of a nightclub at midnight, trying to crash another party, and guess who's standing at the door with a velvet rope? China. They don't really want to let you in, but they see an opportunity to make money from this desperate sucker. That's the blunt truth people don't want to hear. For years, India has tried to sit at the big boys' table, acting like it could cozy up to the West, play chess with the East, and still somehow be the life of the party. But the reality is far less flattering. When Washington shut the door, Beijing opened a window, and Modi, with nowhere else to go, is crawling right through. Now, let's talk about what really caught my attention. Palki Sharma, India's self-proclaimed fearless journalist from Firstpost, landing in Tianjin to cover the SCO summit. You might have seen her video clip, standing face-to-face and conversing with a Chinese AI robot. Her reaction? Honestly, it was priceless. Her face looked like someone trying hard not to admit they like a song by an artist they always trash talk. Amazed, but refusing to show it. Because here's the irony. For years, Palki Sharma has made a career out of criticizing China, painting it as some kind of looming techno-dystopia. And yet, here she was, staring at the kind of futuristic robotics that India could only dream of, while barely blinking, lips tight, almost as if she was afraid to smile too much. She knows the audience back home, praising China outright would blow up her entire brand. But that blank stoic face? That's the look of someone whose worldview just cracked. As soon as she stepped out of Slumdia and arrived at Tianjin Airport, she must have understood the difference. And can you blame her? Let's compare. China has entire expos filled with humanoid robots, AI-powered interpreters, autonomous delivery systems, and smart infrastructure that looks like it belongs in a sci-fi movie. Meanwhile, India is still struggling to keep the trains running on time, sometimes literally. One country exports AI solutions to the world, the other imports smartphones and pretends it invented digital India. But back to Palki. Observing her was like watching a magician forced to admit the trick isn't fake, it's real. She's used to confidently tearing down China on her shows, yet now she is surrounded by undeniable progress, technology that makes Make in India look like Make in 1995. Her stoicism wasn't strength. It was discomfort. Discomfort at the truth she's been hiding from her viewers, that China has surged so far ahead that even India's most loyal propagandists can't deny it when they're standing in the middle of it. And that brings us back to the summit itself. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization isn't just a talking shop, it's a stage for China to showcase its leadership in Eurasia. And India being there wasn't about friendship or shared destiny, it was opportunism, plain and simple. After Trump's tariffs, India is suddenly less useful to the U.S., which always saw it more as a counterweight to China than a true partner. Now, with the U.S. pushing it away by slapping high tariffs on them, India is crawling back into the arms of the very country it spent years antagonizing. Here's where it gets laughable. Indian media is trying to spin this as a strategic masterstroke by Modi, as if he outplayed Washington and Beijing at the same time. The reality? It's Beijing's game. China didn't invite India because it respects it. It invited India because it knows Modi has no other options. A desperate partner is the easiest kind to manipulate. And Modi, after all his chest-thumping about strategic autonomy, has ended up right where China wants him, needing a seat at the table even if it means swallowing his pride. I've talked about this before, how India is geopolitically isolated and has no true allies. Think about the symbolism. While Modi is paraded through Tianjin, given the red carpet treatment, what's really happening is China showing the world that it decides who belongs and who doesn't. The SCO summit is China's home turf. Everyone knows it. India is the guest here, not the co-host. And the guest doesn't get to dictate terms. Which brings us back to Palki Sharma's sudden softness. For years, she's trashed China, calling it repressive, mocking its technology, ridiculing its foreign policy. And yet now, caught on camera, she couldn't help but acknowledge, even subtly, the innovation on display. That's not conviction. That's survival. Because when even the goatee media's loudest voices start softening, you know reality has forced their hand. It shows you something deeper, too. the hollowness of India's media ecosystem. People like Sharma aren't independent journalists. They're mouthpieces, adjusting their tone depending on what benefits Modi's government most. If India needs to bash China, she bashes China. If India needs to flirt with China, suddenly she's praising robots while keeping a poker face. It's a performance, not a profession. And the bigger irony? China doesn't even need her praise. China's progress speaks for itself. Walk through any major expo in Beijing, Shenzhen, or Tianjin, and you'll see technologies that put India's entire Digital India campaign to shame. From 5G infrastructure to AI in healthcare, from green energy to high-speed rail, China is miles ahead. The gap isn't narrowing, it's widening. And Palki's reaction proved that even India's biggest China skeptics can't ignore it when they see it in person. Let's also not forget the timing. The US tariffs on Indian goods were a wake-up call. For all of Modi's friendship with Trump back in the day, the Howdy Modi rallies, the bear hugs, the speeches, at the end of the day, America looks out for itself. And when it needed to protect domestic industries, India was thrown under the bus. The so-called strategic partnership suddenly felt very one-sided. That's why Modi's government is suddenly eyeing SCO summits with more enthusiasm. Not because of shared vision, but because of necessity. Now let's contrast how China sees this situation. For Beijing, bringing India closer isn't about equality, it's about leverage. Every handshake, every summit, every joint declaration is about showing the world that even countries who once leaned west are now leaning east. India is a trophy, not a teammate. China gets to say, look who came crawling back after the US dropped them, and the world sees it. Meanwhile, back in India, the spin machines are working overtime. They'll tell you this is a new chapter of multipolar diplomacy or some nonsense like that. But deep down, people know the truth. India isn't being courted, it's being tolerated. And Palki Sharma's stiff smile in front of that robot, that was the perfect metaphor. India doesn't want to admit it admires China's achievements, but it can't hide the fact either. So where does this leave us? On one side, you have China confidently showing off its technological progress, solidifying its influence in Eurasia, and using summits like these to quietly shape the future of global politics. On the other side, you have India, desperate, humiliated by Trump's tariffs, forced to accept the very country it's been hostile toward, and relying on propagandists like Palki Sharma to spin humiliation into strategy. And let's be honest, this won't end with India suddenly becoming an equal partner in the SCO. It'll end with India playing the role of junior participant, occasionally throwing tantrums, but ultimately following the script written in Beijing. That's the reality Modi's government won't admit, but the world sees clearly. So when you see those clips of Palki standing in front of Chinese robots, looking both amazed and uncomfortable, remember, it's not just about her. It's about India itself. A country that talks big about self-reliance, but still can't hide its awe when standing face-to-face with the future that China has already built. India came to Tianjin not as a power, but as a passenger. And passengers don't drive the bus.